And welcome back to the National Veterans Small Business Coalition's Charlie Mike Training Series. I'm Zach Armstrong, the Deputy Executive Director for NVSBC, and I will be your host today. Before I introduce our esteemed speaker, I'd like to share a few announcements with you. So looking at our three generous sponsors, BAE Systems, Philips North America, and Bank of America, these generous organizations help make this training free for you, where we can bring in policy experts, government representatives, and GovCon educators to bring you information and best practices so you can grow and sustain your business. So again, thank you, BAE Systems, Philips North America, and Bank of America. The Charlie Mike Training Series is part of a suite of NVSBC programs that are powered by the Community Navigator program and the Small Business Administration. So wanted to make sure any veteran or military connected entrepreneurs know that there are free programs and free coaching available to you. Please reach out to NVSBC for any of the business planning and counseling, financial literacy and loan assistance, government contracting support, networking and mentorship, and legal services. We're here to support you and make referrals. So again, you can grow and sustain your business. Again, say it every time. It's that time of year, Vets 23 conference. I think our speaker will say a few things about this as well, and I have a couple words about that. But Vets 23 is coming May 22nd through 25th in beautiful Orlando, Florida. This year we're in partnership with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So couldn't be happier. And, we're tracking to just blow the doors off of our registration and participation this year. That's, vendors, sponsors, participants. We're likely to grow by a few hundred. And again, you'll have something to hear about. Josh Frank will probably say a few words about that towards the end of the call. Next, our Vet Academy and DC networking dinners, some of our in-person training and networking events. I'm actually in DC right now. We have a lovely event every second Wednesday of the month at the Army Navy Country Club. It's an opportunity to meet hundreds of GovCons, federal agencies, service providers, and more, what we call the GovCon ecosystem. So, you've heard me say it, come shake hands, learn, grow your business, make connections, find your next teaming partner. Like all of this happens in this ecosystem, and we do this every month. So come join us April 12th, May 10th, or June 7th. And then why we're here today, our Charlie Mike training series. This is one of three trainings programs that NVSBC provides, and this is our virtual training. So, these trainings are recorded. They're hosted on our YouTube channel, which you're watching now. So please subscribe, like, and view. We provide roughly 3 trainings a month. And, what we've changed up this year based on your feedback, we're allowing registrants to ask 3 questions to our speaker, and also our speakers get a chance to ask our registrants 3 questions ahead of time to help tailor their content. So thank you all for those who've registered for this training, which will support some of Josh, our dialogue at the end. So again, I'm Zach Armstrong. I'm the moderator today. Myself and our program director, Earl Morgan, share this duty and responsibility and privilege. Do want to put in a plug. If any of you know Earl is retiring at the end of May. So please do reach out if he's made an impact in your life or your small business. Earl's starting his own SDVOSB, and I know it'd mean a lot for him. He'll be at our last DC dinner in May, as well as down at the conference in May as well. So again, privileged to be here today as your moderator. And with that, NVSBC is very proud to present Josh Frank, who is a close friend of ours. Is the founder and managing partner at RSM Federal. I've really had a chance to spend some quality time with Josh, getting to know him at our Vets conference, particularly last year in 2022. And, I can tell you from personal experience that even though Josh has taken off the uniform to serve our country, like he's clearly continues to serve others. If you get a chance to meet Josh at a conference or his team, whether it's our conference or other conferences that he and his team participate in, I think you'll experience the same thing that I experienced when I met him. And I know I'm personally lucky enough to get a chance to call Josh on occasion and ask for his advice. And just want to say I'm very grateful for his willingness to serve and continue to support service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses and VOSBs, along with all the other organizations and efforts that he puts forth. So, before I turn it over to Josh, I just simply want to say, like, I encourage all of you, if you get a chance to come to our conference or come to another conference, like, hunt down Josh and get a chance to shake his hand and the rest of his team at RSM Federal. So with that, I will turn it over to our speaker, Mr. Joshua Frame.
Well, thanks, Zach. Let's go ahead. Let me get set up here. I'm going to share the screen. I am going to bring it up, change it to swap. All right, so Zach, you can hear my voice and see the slides?
All set, Josh.
Beautiful. So first of all, you are too kind, Zach. NVSBC is crazy lucky to have you, and not because you were so nice to me. No, you are really good at what you do there. And so can I have a virtual hug? I'm kidding. All right. So
I love it. Yeah, definitely. I'm in.
Okay. All right. So no, I really appreciate the feedback because I am all in on NVSBC. Also, congrats to Earl, right, on his retirement. The Batman himself. Zach, I don't know if anybody knows this. He sends toys to my kids. To my kids.
Same to my kids. He sent
right?
toys to my kids.
He is such. He's what I call good people.
Right.
He's good people. So anyway, major congratulations to him for that. And yeah, the Vets Conference, yes, if you're a veteran, you need to be at Vets 23 in May, but we'll probably talk that a little down the road.
Exactly.
So, okay. What I'm going to be talking about today is how to effectively take advantage of these certifications that we all have. It's not what most people think, and I'm going to walk through this in a fairly fast clip, but I'm going to cover a lot of information in a fairly short period of time. So let me start with this. If I told you that there's some magical icon, a magical logo that you can put on your website that will magically win you millions of dollars in contracts, would you not look at me like I was nuts? Like I was crazy, right? But that's sort of what a lot of companies are doing today. It's not just the SDVOSBs, it's the 8As, the woman-owned Native American ANC, Hub Zone. Doesn't matter what the status is. There are a lot of people that believe, well, if you put it on everything, it's like Field of Dreams, they will come. That's not how it works, not from a business perspective. I want you to imagine for a moment that you have two identical companies, okay? For those of you that are watching right now, imagine whatever it is that you sell, product, service, there is an identical company that does the exact same thing, okay? The owners, you and the other owner, have the exact same education level, high school, college, graduate, PhD, whatever. You get help from the same folks. You get help from NVSBC, you get help from Apex, you get help from SCORE, paid coaches, consultants, whatever, but it's the identical folks helping both companies. You go to the same events, same webinars, same books, join the same associations. Everything is identical, but one company wins $3 million in contracts and the other company doesn't make a penny. Why? How does this happen? Okay? And the answer is because it's not what you learn. It's how you apply it. And that involves engaging the market with a specific set of tactics and strategies. Okay? Selling to the federal government, and I just wrote an article for the Apex program office over at the Pentagon on this. And I said, being procurement ready is why half of all small businesses are failing in the government market, because it's only half of the value chain, of the business chain. You have to combine, to be successful in government sales, you have to combine an education, basic government sales strategy with overall business strategy that has tactics and strategies. Okay, that's why companies win and why companies that don't do it lose. Okay, so it's not about what you learn. Everything you're learning in the market from all these folks, it's not about what you learn, it's how you apply it. So my name is Josh Frank. I run RSM Federal. I am a professional speaker and author and business coach. I've been in the market, man, I'm starting to feel old, 35 years. Former intelligence guy. I work with small and large companies, right? I think I've got, 3 Fortune 100s, 500s today that I work with, and then a ton of small and mid-size. I am a huge small business advocate. I made my name in this market from a small business perspective. I'm on the board of directors. I'm chairman emeritus for the Veterans Advocacy Foundation here in the Midwest. And again, my specialty are tactics and strategies. So what are the expectations for this session today? Well, first, I normally cover somewhere between basic to advanced concepts, tactics, strategies. This will be the basic to the intermediate, okay? Not a ton of advanced. The success for me is to convince you to stop focusing on the fact that you're a veteran, that you're certified, by the SBA as VOSB or SDVOSB. And then this presentation, Zach will have a copy. I'll be able to give it out to you, and I'm sure there'll be a link for it. All right, we have 3 objectives today. The first, how do you softly communicate your status? Okay, how do you softly communicate? The importance of communicating your value, and how do you communicate your status? Website, CAPE statement, proposals, conferences, everywhere. Because how most people do it is they do it the way the government has implied you should do it, but it doesn't make sense from a business perspective. And so I'm going to go against the grain, because in one point in time, you were counseled or mentored, right? It could be SCORE, SBDC, EDC, the Apex accelerators, paid coaches, paid consultants, small business counselors at DOD's OSBP, Office Small Business Programs, or the SDVOSB, right? Small business offices at the agencies. We teach the way we were taught, okay? So all these folks are telling you, you got to put it front and center, right? Well, that's because everybody's been told you got to do it front and center. And that is the wrong way, because at the end of the session, I want to convince, I say every one of you, you know what? If I just convince one viewer of this webinar, just one, right, that winning has everything to do with the value that you communicate and little to nothing to do with your socioeconomic status, if I can do that, then that's success for me. Okay, tell me if this sounds familiar. Look at your business card. If on the front of your card, let's say you are veteran-owned or service-disabled veteran-owned small business certified, right? And if I look at the front of your card, you have that logo on the front, and it's the exact same size as the logo for your company, okay? Many of you may have that. If I look at your website, right, are those logos all the way up in the header of your website? Is it in the body where even before I scroll down on your website, that is one of the first things that I see? If I look at your CAPE statement, your marketing collateral, Is it, again, one of the first things I see? Is it at the top, right? And when I'm talking to you at a conference, an event, or I'm talking to you on the phone, and I say, hey, tell me who you are. And you go, hi, well, my name is Mary, and we're a woman-owned small business that does XYZ. Or, hi, I'm, Lisa, we're an SDVOSB that provides XYZ, right? So this makes absolutely does not make smart business sense, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about why this minimizes your perceived value and discuss how you need to communicate in order to differentiate and win contracts. And I'll simply say this. Looking at your business card, for those of you that have your certification on the front, shouldn't be on the front, should be on the back. But if you have it on the front, and that logo is the exact same size as your company logo, right? I mean, it's a small car, graphics are small, but you got to make them big enough so you can read them. Do you know what you're telling me? If I see your veteran-owned or service-disabled veteran-owned certification logo as large as your company, you're telling me that the value of your company is that you're a veteran. Is that the value of your company? No, of course not. Right? I say the same thing for companies that are 8A or woman-owned, right? And we have a lot of veteran companies members here. And if you're not a member of MVSBC, and you're a veteran, you absolutely should be. But it's the same for an 8A logo, 8A certification, SBA 8A. Do you know what you're telling me? If that's as large as your company logo, that the value of your company is that you're Black or Hispanic, right? Or woman-owned, you're a woman, or you live in a hub zone, right? So when I say it like that, a red light should go off, an alarm should go off, and you should be saying to yourself, wait a minute, that's not the value of our company. The value are the products, the value we provide is the value that our products and services provide to our customers, right? So this is really important. I'm going to hit on it throughout. And that brings us to, okay, so what do? You have to softly communicate, okay? Every time you think of your certification, think soft communication, okay? Again, every status, is it powerful? Yeah, of course it is, right? I mean, at the day of this recording, 23% small business, 5% 8A, 5% woman-owned, 3% SDVOSB, 3% hub zone, right? But yeah, so it's important from an acquisition perspective, but it's a balancing differentiator. It just balances you in the market. And so most of the guidance that you've been given on how you position that you're a veteran or a service-disabled veteran company, it's both right and wrong. I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying don't lead with it, okay? When you introduce yourself to me, I should never hear, hey, we're a service-disabled woman, service-disabled veteran-owned small business, or we're a hub zone. All of that, it's always going to come out. I mean, for God's sake, we're trained. That's how we're all trained. Large companies, the government. Well, oh, you're small. Are you certified in anything? Right? It'll always come out. But be the mature entrepreneur. Be the mature small business that doesn't lead with it. Okay? Now, so there's several different ways that I'm trying to crystallize for you why it's so important to softly communicate and not lead. And so when I'm at whether it's national conferences or various events, and I'm up on stage, I'll say, hey, why do companies win contracts? And people will shout out a bunch of answers. And this is normally what I get. Hey, we got great past performance, right? The management team, perceived value, quality, back office, socioeconomic, right? You're not going to win because of socioeconomic, but and some others. But then I always say, what's the number one reason that companies win? Because don't forget, and the answer is perceived value. don't forget that 50% of companies that have a GSA mass, multiple award schedule, those of you that are new, that's just a contract vehicle by GSA. And many don't know that over 50% of companies, that are on that have a GSA schedule fail to successfully make a single penny. That's 1 in every 2. Half of small businesses fail to win. Half of service disabled, veteran-owned, 8A. This is all a microcosm of the overall market. 50% of companies that try to engage fail. And it's not because of what they sell. Many of them are relying on their socioeconomic status and or they are not communicating strong value. And I'm going to talk about value here in a moment. And so if I meet you at a conference and I go, hey, Janet, nice to meet you. What do you do? Don't simply tell me what you sell. There's 100 companies that do what you do. Don't tell me that you're a small business. Okay? Does Lockheed Martin come up to you and go, hey, I'm Josh with Lockheed. We're a large business that does XYZ. No, of course not. So why would you introduce yourself as we're a small business that does X? And the same applies. Don't tell people we're minority or 8A, woman, veteran. You don't need to tell me that. I'm not going to buy from you because you are veteran-owned or service-disabled veteran-owned. Okay, I'm not going to buy from you because you're a small business. I'm not going to buy from you because you have certifications. If I'm the government, I'm going to buy from you because of the breadth, depth, and maturity that you convince me your company is capable of. And that is done through value, communicating value. So be very clear. It's not what you sell. Let me back up for a minute. I said at the beginning, excuse me, I said at the beginning, to be successful in federal sales, in government sales, you have to bridge 2 things. You have to bridge government sales strategy with, number 2, overall business acumen, utilizing tactics and strategies, right? So this session today is more about business than it is government, right? If all I did was focus on the government side of the chain, I'd be telling you the same stuff everybody else tells, and you'd have 50% chance of probably winning something, right? Now, this is in a vacuum, right? We're just talking socioeconomic, and I'm bringing various pieces in, but I want you to think from a business perspective, okay? It's incredibly important because that will put you on the right road to success. So it's not what you sell. It's definitely not your socioeconomic status. It is the value that your product services provide. And when we talk value, right, versus product and you know, service, stop creating market strategies that are specific to, you know, set-asides, right? You position with value, not what you sell. Again, hundreds of companies do what you do. And if you don't communicate value, and I'm going to show you an example of what I mean by this, then you're providing no advantage. Your status provides no advantage to you. Okay? Now, think of it this way. Once an acquisition is defined, you're competing against the same companies that have your status. So if you see something on sam.gov and you respond to an RFQ or RFP, doesn't matter, and 17 companies, let's say it's a SDVOSB set-aside, Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business set-aside, and 18 companies respond. What is the one and only common characteristic between these 18 companies? Right. They're all SDVOSB certified by SBA. Now, those 18 proposals or bids go into source selection. At that point, you being SDVOSB means absolutely nothing. That is why I call socioeconomic statuses a balancing differentiator. It is not a core differentiator for any of you. It is a balancing differentiator because it simply balances you in the market. Now, for those of you, clearly, I'm presenting this for National Veteran Small Business Coalition, and so there's a core focus on veteran-owned organizations. But some of you are going to be 8A. And I always get the question, they go, Josh, I sort of get what you're saying, but we're also 8A, and we can get sole source. So no, it's not a balancing differentiator. And I look at them, I go, if you fail to convince the government of your value, of your capability, the breadth and depth and maturity, do you really think you're going to get a sole source contract? Of course not. No. I mean, getting 8A sole source, getting 8A certified, very few get a sole source because very few communicate anything other than you have to do business with companies like ours. Right? You can give us $4.5 million. Well, I'm never going to, if I'm government, I'm not giving it to you. Not unless you communicate value, right? So again, balancing differentiator, and you got to go through all these pieces. And again, I know I keep saying it over and over, but that's how it's like yin and yang, right? It's whatever the metaphor is. Value against your socioeconomic status, right? I'm beating a dead horse. I mean, it's hamburger patty. It's already on the grill and it's burning at this point, but it's that important. Now, what happens when you focus on value, right? Again, everybody hang tight. I'm gonna get to what does that mean to focus on value here in a minute. But a real world example. So I was working with, because I'm an executive coach. I was working with a company in Kansas. They were minority and woman-owned, okay? And they scored a meeting with not just a contracting officer, but like the senior contracting official at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas, the Army base. And she said, Josh, what do I do? How do I prepare? And I said, well, first and foremost, you're not there to talk about yourself. Your number one objective is to collect information. So if all you do is you're just talking about yourself and the company and allowing the contracting officer to ask questions and you're responding, you have just wasted an entire meeting with the government, because the majority of the meeting needs to be you asking the questions, because that's how you market intelligence allows you to facilitate a competitive advantage when a proposal has to be written, okay? So anyway, I said, you need to control the meeting, and here's how you introduce yourself. And you just simply say, don't say small, don't say any of the statuses, just simply say, here's the value here's who we are and the value we provide. And so about 45 minutes into this meeting, and it was on base, 45 minutes into the meeting, he looked at her and he said, question, you're small, right? You're small business. I remember that, I think. And she goes, yep. He goes, do you have any other certifications, small business certs? And she goes, yeah, we're 8A. We're woman-owned. I mean, we're Native American. And he immediately leans forward in his chair and he goes, are you out of your mind? Why didn't you, what? We've been talking 45 minutes. Why did you just now tell me? Because, we have, 5% for 8A, 5% for woman-owned. We need to work with companies like yours. And she looked at him, and this was all crafted beforehand. I told her exactly what to say. And she said, yeah, I understand, but that's not who we are. That's not the value that we provide. And the contracting officer's eyes got really wide. And he leaned back in his chair and he said, I think that is one of the best responses I have ever heard. And he took her by the hand into the back office, introduced her to 3 other contracting officers that worked for him, and she had 2 contracts in 90 days. Now, is that the norm? No. But I wanted you to understand, I'm giving you different metaphors and case studies and examples throughout the session to convince as many people as I can from a business perspective. You do not want to be leading with your status, because then you're just the typical small business that doesn't understand the value that they provide. And so when you focus on value and you softly communicate your status, and again, I said this before, don't worry, it will always come out in discussion. Everyone, if somebody doesn't ask you, right, I'll give you 25 cents. I was going to say $100, but way too many people try that with me. Everyone's going to ask, okay? So, and by the way, this will differentiate you massively with other organizations, okay? And, you know, the whole value versus how you communicate your socioeconomic status, if you can't get prospects, government prospects or partners to return your call, okay? It's not unique, small, large company. But the primary reason they won't call you back, or they won't respond to emails, or they won't put you onto their team is because you failed to communicate your value. It is that simple, and it is that complex. Now, before I continue into the value mapping, Zach, how much time do I have left? How far have we gone into this so far?
Say, 15 to 20 minutes would be great.
All right. I can't promise it'll be that short, but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
All right. So value mapping. I've been talking about value. Communicate your value. I have an entire training session that I give on how to communicate your past performance and the value of your company. I'm going to give you a small taste of that here, because you need to understand the whole value versus socioeconomic. This company is a physical security company, so the cameras up on the walls, right? Access control badges. They sell product, but they're primarily a service company, okay? And I said, tell me your past performance. And they go, well, we've operated, we got a bunch of contracts last year, 1.6 million. We operate, locally, and we're pretty much just a commercial company. And I said, so if I were to ask you, who are you, what do you do, what's your answer? And they go, well, we're a security company, right? And we support residential and schools and municipalities. We're veteran-owned small business. Shouldn't be doing that. We specialize in, AC, IDS, CCTV, been in business so many years. So, hey, Josh, you're with the Army. What are your requirements? Now, this is very simple. And most everyone that's going to watch this training seminar will say, well, mine's a little bit more advanced. And yes, but I wanted to show you something. So I asked this company, they were a client, and I said, show me your client list for last year. And they go, Josh, can we get back to you? And I go, don't you have a list of your clients? I mean, aren't you marketing that you have these clients? And they're like, well, sort of, but not really, kind of, yeah, maybe. And I said, all right, give me the list. And so they came back with a list. And I said, can you break down by revenue on these? And they said, oh, Josh, you're killing us. And I go, well, come back to me. So they came back a day later, and obviously residential, 3,500 homes. And so I looked through these and said, I'm going to grab the larger ones. I think I'm going to grab Long Beach. I'm going to grab the airport, the high school, probably the homes. And I said, let's talk about this. I said, you got 43K for Long Beach, for the schools. Excuse me. I said, how many schools? They go, we don't know. We're in the business of, you get a task order, you get a work order, you send a truck out, you execute the work, you invoice, you get paid, you move on to the next thing. But we're really not sure. And I said, did you do all schools? And they go, yeah, we touched all schools. I go, how many employees? And they go, why do we care? I said, you need to trust me. We need to value map here. How many students? So we got all these answers for Long Beach. And then the airport. And they said, yeah, it's a little bit more, 75K. And, we did, both IDS and access control, whatever. And I said, break out your scope. And then I Googled and I was like, wait a minute, were you involved with the business park? They go, yeah. Okay, so how many businesses? We don't know. All right, Google it. There was this big shopping center. And I said, how many employees work at this airport? And they go, we have no idea. I said, find out. And then because it's an airport, how many passengers? And so we went through this. We went through value mapping, right? That's what we're talking, value mapping, your past work, experience, contracts, is about identifying qualitative and quantitative numbers, metrics, and percentages. That helps us communicate value. Because remember, when we look at all of their stuff together, 19,000 components, 3,700 unique locations protecting 3.9 million. Here's the bottom line. This is a $1.6 million company. 1.6. Would you look at this and go, oh, that's a 1.6 million? No. You'd probably go, I don't know, they're 10, 20, $30 million company, maybe 50. That is the importance of understanding how to map your value mapping, okay? And so, this company, this is a real world company, went from this to, hey, this is what we do, 3,700 locations, 3.9 million people, including 10th largest airport, 260K feet of cable, 19,000 products, 10 years, etc. Guess what? When you're done with this is the corporate overview on your website. This is the corporate overview in your capability statement. And this is the corporate overview that goes into all your proposals. Okay? Notice, look at this. Do you see anywhere in here where it says we are veteran owned or service disabled veteran owned? We do not. Very important that it is not there. Now, when we market our status, I would put it on the back of the card. If you got a logo on the front, make sure it's smaller than your corporate website. I would put it on the government landing page, whatever page you have for all your markets, right? It should not be the first thing I see, right? My company's SDVOSB certified, and I have, my firm has several business units, okay? One of them, we sell product to the DOD and the VA, right? So I'm not just a business coach. I also have another division that does what we teach, right? But if you look at our website, you have to go all the way to the government landing page to see an SDVOSB logo, okay? And so there's no right or wrong, okay? I'm not saying you can. I'm just trying to make you think differently. It definitely should not go on top. It should go in the corporate data section, and it should be either a small logo or just spell it out, okay? And so if you look at these two, this company on the left, that's their homepage, right? By the way, notice that we provide value. This is such a horrible website, but that logo shouldn't be on the front, right? RSM, that's actually that's our old website. I just realized that. But our current site has the same thing. You have to go all the way to the government services page to even see that logo. And notice that the past performance logos at the bottom are larger than my SDVOSB logo. So you can do, your status logos. If you look on the left, I don't even have a logo. I just go small business, service disabled. Okay. On the right, yes, I have, in that case, it's a woman-owned small business. It is way smaller than the past performance logos. Your email signature block. I don't have a problem with you putting your statuses in your email block, but don't use logos. Okay, just text. And don't list your awards, right? And again, no graphics. The graphics get stripped out by some email systems. Trade show booth. They're expensive, right? Remember, softly communicate. Put your logos in a secondary location. Okay, if I look at your exhibit booth, marketing material, anything, and if all I see initially is you're a certified 8A woman-owned SDVOSB, what have you, you're telling me that's your value, and that's not going to win you contracts. So a lot of folks, this is what it looks like, right? And it's going to get stripped out. This is it. MSR, electrical, and just spell out, what your certs are, okay? Now, if you can't communicate your value, your marketing, your capability statements, this is it. This is what your marketing looks like. Hey, we're a great company. You need to do business with us. This is why 50% of companies don't win. This is why companies don't get onto the teams they want to get on. And so I'm going to move through this. You'll have it in the deck. And so communicating that value in 45 seconds, and then I'm going to wrap up and we'll go into some Q&A. Excuse me. So all of you need to have a 45-second intro. Now, this company is small, they're woman, and they're veteran-owned. Okay, what happens? Most companies will go into a meeting with someone with the government, virtually, Zoom meeting, MS Teams, whatever, or in person, right? Even though we're sort of quasi post-COVID, man, y'all should be trying to get meetings in person as much as possible still. But you'll have a meeting, you'll be in that meeting for about 40 minutes, and the government rep's going to go, I got to go. This has been a great meeting. Let's follow up, but I've got an appointment that I didn't realize I need to go to. When you leave that meeting, what's your next step, right? This has little to do with socioeconomic, but this has everything to do with tactics and strategies. What's your next step? You did all the questions. You were answering all the questions. You asked very little. You got little market intelligence. What's your follow-up? That's normally what happens. Okay, it's a wasted meeting. I'm going to read this. Josh, who are you? What do you do? Well, we're in the business streamlining, consolidating info and data across multiple geographically dispersed networks, increase visibility, accuracy, speed of access, cross enterprise. Mark, on average, we save our clients 30% in op expense, more than 45% in data integrity. We've done this, provided the benefits to Monsanto and Blue Cross and Army Corps. And like most companies in our space, our website and marketing collateral list a half a dozen product services, but we have two that provide the most value to our customers, and they are A and B. But before I go into any more detail, can I ask several questions to better help me understand your organization? Would that be okay? Now, when you look at this, there are 4 specific blocks. The value that I provide, proof that I can provide it, I make myself equal, right? Hey, look at all we're like everybody else, but the 2 where we really specialize, that's make yourself equal, then you differentiate, and you take control of the meeting. Okay? Did you hear anywhere in that I was small or woman or veteran owned? No. No. Okay? Because the government will buy from you because of the value, not your status. Okay? It just balances you in the market. So if I were to summarize everything that I've just said to you over the last, 45, whatever it is, minutes, this entire session, you are not a status. You are a company that provides value. And with that, 2 quick things, Zach, before we go into Q&A. Those of you that like podcasts, this is free wherever you listen. Game Changers, we have quite a few downloads on that. I'm an author, so if you were to get a book on Amazon, I would recommend Insider's Guide. and the government sales manual. And with that, Zach, I'm going to leave this up probably. And by the way, you can reach me, everyone, at the contact at RSM, and you'll have these slides. Zach, I'm going to go ahead and shut down my share.
Okay.
People can rewind. Let's see here.
And while you're doing that, we did receive a good amount of feedback, several questions, and I know you and I talked about some of them ahead of time, just so you had an idea, so you could answer them thoroughly and get everyone what they were asking for. One of the ones to start us out that stood out had to do with talking about contracts and where I like to be compliant. The question very specifically was, what should be on a website where contracts have been won to be compliant?
Yeah, excuse me, nose giving me issues today. There's no right answer, Zach. Normally, this is normally not a major issue. Some of the larger contracts, contract vehicles, will require a separate page on your website, right? Or a separate section on the website. But the government tells you exactly what needs to be on the page, right? So, what should be on a website, where contracts have been won to be compliant. When something has to be on the website, the government will tell you exactly what needs to be on the page. So that's not something you're going to have to guess at. Does that make sense?
That's definitely helpful. And I think that addresses the core there.
Gotcha.
Next question. This is like a two-parter in some ways. I think you'll be able to kind of separate this out and bring it all back together. But this question is, we understand the best way to access SDVOSB contract vehicles is frequently like by subcontracting with a large prime. So that's part of that. You might be able to address that. But the second part is, what are the best events, formal or informal, to attend and establish these relationships and use some like this value mapping that you just shared.
Yeah, well, your first point's a good point. The subbing to a large prime, 90% of companies that successfully, 90% of companies get their first 3 or 4 contracts as a subcontractor, right? You get by subcontracting, you're learning about the market. You're watching other companies write proposals. So there's a reason why subcontracting is so valuable to small companies, but it's also valuable to any of the larger companies as well, right? So it's a good question about contract vehicles. At the time of our recording here, T4NG2, which is a $60 billion vehicle, obviously the follow-on to T4NG. GSA just pushed the release of the RFP/RFQ to mid-March, award in April. That's 23. But what I would say to everybody listening, it's almost too late to engage as part of a team. So, when people say, initially you got to sub to the large prime, yes, but you also have to know what's coming down the pike, because teams are built a year out. Some teams are built 2 years out. So can you get on a team after the proposal has been submitted? Normally, no. There are exceptions. But if I am one of 9 companies that are subbing and we're on a team with a prime, and we spend weeks, months, years positioning and putting a proposal together, and after the proposal is submitted, the prime goes, hey, all you 10 companies, we're going to add another company because we like them. No, you're diluting my share if we win. So, Zach, I'll tell you, a lot of small business counselors, offices, etc., will say, well, you need to get, hey, sorry, we only buy what you sell through this vehicle at this agency. Call the primes, get on their team. Well, that's government for you, because that doesn't make smart business sense, right? It's highly unusual for you to get on a team after a team's been built and submitted. Your final question for events. The best is probably going to be VETS, right? The VETS conference this year, May 23 in Orlando. But any year, VETS. The fact that I don't know how you guys did this. This was pretty good. The fact that MVSBC is partnered with the VA, like the VA is going all in this year with MVSBC for VETS 23 is incredible. And I would say any veteran company, two points. One, if you're a member of MVSBC, you need to be at VETS, okay? The amount of value is off the charts. If you're not a member of MVSBC and you're just watching this video because you know the metadata brought it up on your feed, do one or both, right? MVSBC and VETS. So that's what I got for you, Zach.
No, I appreciate that. And to, provide a even more like flavor from our side, from the institutional, the organization side. Clearly, like, we launched a new system in May, and the effort was to create the conditions for smalls and larges and service providers, that ecosystem that we talk about, to connect, to collaborate. And very specifically, we have an opportunities board where we have primes that post subcontracting opportunities.
Yep.
And I say that because whether you're a member or not, 48,000 have access to our Fed Connect site. And whether you're a prospect, if you put your NAICS codes and your past performance and all that capability statement in there, our primes can find you. They can search for your information. And I can't tell you how frequently, but it's out of the blue, they come and say, hey, Zach, we're looking for XYZ. Do you know somebody? And again, I go to our database first, or people that I've met at conferences, at networking events, etc. So that is a plug for our Fed Connect. But again, that's the way we know to connect our primes, who are our partners, who are members, to subcontracting opportunities.
Gotcha.
So jumping into the next question, they're asking, where should a new SDVOSB with no contracts, but with a lot of good experience, where should they start looking for government contracts? What resources are available to search for those contracts?
So, such a simple question without a simple answer. Understanding the government market, I mentioned with the slides, is only half of the business equation, right? So success, again, bridging your understanding of the government market with general business acumen and a common set of tactic strategies. And so, one side of this is if you're looking for contracts to bid on, which is the easy part, right? And we'll talk the resources there in a minute. But 80% of your time should not be looking for contracts to bid on. 80% of your time should be focused pre-acquisition before these opportunities land on SAM.gov, or they land in DIBS, right? DLA's Internet Bid Board System, or any other system. In terms of resources, where do you find opportunities, right? I think that's the question. Where do you find opportunities? SAM.gov. But 90% of that is already acquisition phase, right? You can't influence it. You can't collect intel on it. That's SAM.gov. You got DIBS, as I mentioned. There are 500 bid matching systems, contract management systems. These are, in Fed Connect there, Zach was just talking about. There's a piece in there as well. But finding opportunities, think GovWin, think Bloomberg. Those are the real expensive 800-pound gorillas, but there's just so many different systems. And those systems simply consolidate the data from all the government systems, right, with a pretty user interface. They're valuable, don't get me wrong. So you got SAMs, you got DIBS, you got bid matching systems, teaming partners, talk with other companies. They're engaging stuff. Talk with small business offices, the OSBP or the OSDBOs. OSBP, Office Small Business Programs, DoD, OSDBOs are the agencies. Go to conferences, looking for opportunities. Go to VETS, right? Go to VETS. Join association. So here's the deal. This is for, it's starting to sound like I'm trying to sell here, but the reality is there are so few organizations from a federal perspective that support the veterans. So NVSBC is that organization. I am not being paid to say that. I'm not a paid member of NVSBC in any way, but it's a great organization. And so, so again, SAMs, DIBs, bid matching, teaming partners, small business offices, conferences, associations. There's so many different places where you can go to search for contracts. I mean, there's probably dozens I've missed. Those are just the big ones.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, just naming them out, like I think gets a lot of people a place to start, and it's validation, confirmation that they know they're working in the right spot, that they're not missing something. Yep. And let alone the conversations when you're talking to a potential partner or just another someone in the ecosystem. All right, in terms of questions, Josh, we'll close it up with the question I think is really trying to get at collaboration, SDVOSB to SDVOSB. It's almost like a frustration question of like, why aren't more SDVOs working together with their niches to like move forward? That this person's having trouble winning contracts, having difficulty getting on a contract. So clearly you've addressed like a huge portion of that.
Yeah,
like
I have.
The value mapping side.
Yeah.
But is there any other color or perspective that's on your mind?
It's an interesting question, Zach, because I'm not sure I agree with the underlying premise. Yes, I agree that there are a lot of companies don't work together. It's not unique though to the SDVOSB side, and as you just indicated, companies that understand their value and how to communicate it have a higher probability of being able to work with other companies. Right, the less mature companies don't realize that their best partners are also their competition in the market. Right? At the end of the day, when you talk to another company and recognize that they don't care what you sell, right? There are hundreds of companies that do what you do. They're focused, when you're talking to another company, they're focused on how will this company, your company, how will your company make me more competitive? I'm going to repeat that. How will your company make that other company more competitive in the market, on an opportunity? Because I don't care what your company does. I'm being a little facetious here. I don't care what your company does. There are 20 companies, 30, 100, 1,000 that do what your company does. Okay, great. You have a ton of past performance. I don't care. Now, if you have that past performance in an agency where I'm trying to penetrate, all right, maybe a little bit, right? That'll make me more competitive. So you have to think from a teaming perspective, not, oh, gee, what can we do together? Where are we complementary? At the end of the day, it all flows down into how will you make them more competitive, because that's how companies make their decisions. Does that make sense?
It does. It's the hard truth, perhaps.
Yeah, it is a hard truth.
People are coming here for some of the hard truths, and at the same time, like I said, like I hear it when we provide counseling sessions where folks are like trying to sort out the noise, like feel overwhelmed with information. Yeah. So some of the validating information is helpful to know they're on the right track. So truly with that, like I do want to thank you, Josh, for making time, because I know you have all kinds of opportunities to share your talents, your time, your treasure. With that, I've alluded to it a couple different ways. If you all don't know, like Josh is our MC, and he has been last year as well at our vets conference, and he donates that time, which our board, our staff, our members are incredibly appreciative that he makes that effort and provides back to the SDVOSB and VOSB community that way. So just saying thank you, Josh, because it wouldn't be the same without you up there and leading that way and complementing the rest of our programming. So
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I do want to say, thank you to our sponsors, BAE Systems, Philips North America, and Bank of America. Josh, what do you got?
Real quick. Sorry, I interrupted your closing rhythm there. If anybody has questions, Zach, about how to do some of these things, they can reach out to MVSBC. Okay, that's number one. Or two, they can just send an email to contact@RSM Federal. Okay, it's on the slides, and I assume, do people get the slides or no?
Definitely. We'll provide the slides if you want to provide those along with the YouTube, what they're watching.
No,
right now.
I'm going to hide them.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right. Thank you.
So, and again, like with that, like anyone can contact me at zack.armstrong@nvsbc.org with any questions. NVSBC has all kinds of training events, networking events available for you to participate. So, we want you to get out there, maximize this opportunity, grow your business, become even more procurement ready and sustain procurement readiness. So it was a pleasure spending some time with you, Josh. I always learned something.
Likewise.
Walk away a little bit today with like the, control the meeting, those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. I think further refinement, that was helpful for me to hear. So I'll control the meeting next time.
Well, hey, thanks again for having me.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Take care.